In the International Astronautical Federation. A warm welcome and thank you so much for meeting here in the office right in the heart of Paris. You are an international federation all over and you keep flourishing all that is a dialogue between science and industry all over the world. I could attend some of your great conferences and I'm so enthusiastic about IAF and to talk to you, the General Director, Dr. Feichtinger. I have a first question to you.
Well, welcome here in Paris. I'm pleased to have you representing one of our distinguished members from Germany here in Paris and discuss interesting topics. Thanks for coming.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. Avec plaisir. And my first question is, what was your initial idea coming here to Paris and starting this great federation? And another question I put right there, what do you think shaped the past that works into our present?
Well, you know, the International Astronautical Federation is really a unique organization, I would say. We have such a rich and long history, being created in 1951 by just 10 societies from 9 different countries. And if you remember, this was the time of the Cold War, actually, where the East and the West, they couldn't speak with each other openly. I mean, scientists and engineers. And these clever people, they realized that if they created a multinational and international forum or environment, then all of a sudden contacts would be possible. And that was kind of the birth of the International Astronautical Federation. And now, 75 years later, the Federation still does what it was intended to do, connecting all space people for a sustainable future. Of course, the history of all this more than 70 years shows that the development of the International Astronautical Federation went hand in hand with the development of space over all these years. I mean, space at the very beginning was a domain, for many decades actually, a domain of the so-called big space nations, the Soviet Union, the US, and that was more or less it. Europe also came up, of course, then. And the Federation has developed at the same time by growing its membership. At the very beginning, there was the rule of one country, one member, and it was usually the society or the association. But then after certain years, it was realized that there is more. There are more stakeholders, more actors getting active in the space domain, and it was then opened up for any organization that is active and enthusiastic about space. And the membership that has started with 9 members has grown today to a number of 513 organizations from 77 different countries. So it has developed into a true global organization, and it is most probably, one can say today, the most diverse space advocacy organization worldwide. And of course we are very proud of this one, and we try to keep the speed of development of the Federation as it was. And of course our key asset, or our key project, I would say, is hosting and organizing the International Astronautical Congress, which this year will be organized for the 75th time. Actually, it is an anniversary edition. It will take place in Milan, 14th to 18th of October. And we are very happy to bring the Congress back to Europe, to Italy, which is a very important actor today in space. And we are tuned to get a record Congress actually this year again. But again, looking a bit back, as I mentioned before, the development of the space sector in these last decades, starting from really only the space nations, has changed dramatically, especially in the last years, by new actors coming in, new countries coming in. In many emerging countries, space has not been any topic for years, but something happened a few years ago, and I may be very proud to say that maybe the International Astronautical Federation, through our events and activities, we may have contributed to connecting these countries also to the countries that have already been very active in space, by demonstrating that space can contribute strongly to the socio-economic development of a country. And how do you do that? You need to convince the general public, but you need to convince the politicians, the decision makers, actually. And that is what we've done over the last 10-15 years, to really bring space experts together with decision makers, organizing dedicated sessions for ministers, for members of parliament, and giving them all the arguments why space is important, why to spend money on space, because this is only possible if the general public is convinced. How do you convince the general public? Of course, mainly through the media. So for us, also a very important aspect is to bring the media into the discussion about space, to provide them with the right inputs so that they can really reflect what is really what space is all about, and what space can really contribute and bring to the general public.
This is an amazing contribution that you bring up. For 75 years. I've been watching the IAF for a few years, and it's always something that is inspiring for everybody. In that time that I've been watching what your activities are, bringing the dialogue and including everybody who's interested in that, especially a new generation, that is something that is unique. And I look at the presence that has been also inspired by private launchers, and that is a new market, that is a new target group, that is a new group of people who are interested in all that. And I'm very glad to hear that from you. So what are your aspects for the near future that you look into when it comes to the Milan Congress? And congratulations for 75 years. That's hard work, and you are for 12 years in that position. So hopefully we meet there. And let me hear about your aspects for that one. And what else are you focusing?
Well, you have mentioned one very important aspect, and that is the next generation. Today you have a big number of space gatherings, space conferences, congresses, and most of them are targeted to a certain target group. So you are either gathering space agencies, the government sector, you're either or gathering industry, or it's a student conference. Also focusing sometimes on really regional groups. What the International Astronautical Congress is specific and different from all these other very focused conferences is how broad we are. We are including the government sector, we are including the industry, we are including academia, so space universities. We are open and very, very supportive to the next generation. It's one of our mission to contribute to the development of the space workforce for the future. And today, more than 50% of our participants in the Congress are from the next generation. If we say next generation, it's student and young professionals below 35. And what is also a distinctive feature is the geographical diversity. I mean, with about last Congress last year in Baku, we had a record number of 132 countries represented. So nobody is left out. We are open to emerging countries, even to representatives of countries that do not have yet a space ecosystem. And if we can contribute to the development of these ecosystems in these countries, I think this is an important mission. We have called this initiative actually 3G diversity, 3G standing for gender, generation, and geography. So geography, as I mentioned, 77 countries are members of our federation. More than 130 countries are participating in our Congress. So geographically, I think we are doing well. Generation-wise, again, it's important to bring the senior experts, the senior generation, in contact with the next generation. And our Congress is famous for this actually. We have targeted programs for the next generation where, of course, senior personalities, I mean the NASA administrator, the Director General of the European Space Agency, they are getting in touch, and also industry leaders, they are getting in touch with the next generation. And it's a unique opportunity. I'm always saying to students and young professionals who come to the IACII, come there, don't be afraid, address these senior leaders in space, because they are open for you, they are open to talk to you, and it's a unique, of course, experience for a young person to be able to talk to these senior leaders. And it may kind of really steer and influence their career. Mm-hmm. And of course, gender, this is something I think everybody is acknowledging today, that we need to kind of support the inclusion of more and more female engineers, promote really technical topics for young girls to take as a career, and also kind of raise the awareness that it is important to have a diverse workforce in gender aspect as well. Now, talking about the IACII in Milan, yes indeed, we are working since now several years already preparing this Congress. And whenever the Congress comes back to Europe, we expect really another record. I recall 2 years ago, we've had the pleasure to host and organize the Congress here in Paris. Mm-hmm. And it was the biggest Congress ever, with 9,500 participants. So we didn't reach 10,000. So we said, okay, next time the Congress comes back to Europe, that is our target. And that's what we are looking now for in Milan. Mm-hmm. And what we have seen so far in terms of interest from our global community is stunning, because we've just closed all our calls, the calls for proposals for the plenaries, for the special sessions, and also the abstracts in the technical program. And while, for instance, in Paris, we had 4,800 abstracts submitted, from which we could only kind of select some 2,500–3,000 to be presented at the Congress. This year, just last weekend, we have closed the call. Mm-hmm. We have received almost 7,000. So you see the speed of development or the interest of the global space community to be part of this Congress is growing year by year. We've a record number of special session proposals for this Congress, with 150 proposals. We can only accommodate some 20. So the level and the quality of all the events will be on top level. So I can only invite everybody to consider joining us there. The venue is exceptional. It's a huge venue, the MICO, Milan Convention Center, which is really able to host a community and a crowd of more than 10,000 people. The exhibition is almost full already, booked out, and it is kind of in 2 big halls, a stunning almost 20,000 square meters. And of course, we will have, as usually, all the big events. We will have the heads of agencies there that are reporting. We will have senior management of space industry. We will have a dedicated meeting for ministers and members of parliament, again, in order to kind of bring space closer to decision makers on government level. We will have a huge crowd of young people there again, with special programs for them, and of course the Italian hospitality offered by the host organization, which is the AIDA, which is one of the founding members of the Federation, with very strong support of the government sector through the AACII, the Italian Space Agency, and leading industry in Italy by Leonardo. So this is a very, very strong team, and we are delighted to working closely with them to make this another success.
So we can't wait to see all that. And what a combination this is. You mentioned that you promote the dynamic young people, bring them together with the experienced people of the space community from all over, and the interdisciplinary aspect. How important is this to combine and bring it into a dialogue? So you're looking into a very rich future, a very strong future, because everybody's looking at the astronautical communities all over, and the emerging markets are getting a good guide into a very successful way and future, and bringing also jobs all over, isn't it?
It is, indeed.
And we are very glad to see you on the 12th of February 2025, and you will see a small congress, and we will hear your words when you're actively on the stage and giving a report about Milan then. And I can wish you all the very best for Milan and a good future, and we have so much in common. Let's look at it more closely with hope, with courage, and with a special orientation and astronautical purposes.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to meeting again in February next year and talking about AACII in Milan and whatever comes next.
Yes, that's a great idea.
Thank
you so much, Dr. Feichtinger, IAF Paris.